In this exercise, we're going to take the rusty fridge material and apply it to a refrigerator. So the first step is to make a cylinder. So we hide the fridge, and these cylinders are going to be the studs on the front. So we use an array modifier to generate a line of studs, and we adjust the spacing so they're going to line approximately down the front. To rotate the array, they need to be rotated also around the z-axis once they're in position. You will come across the rotation in edit mode compared with the rotation in object mode later, and you'll see that there's a bit of an issue. So we apply the modifier to create the indentations from the studs. And then we apply it again to form actual studs sticking out. And now we're going to add a steampunk style refrigeration exhaust on the back. It's not normal for refrigerators to need this, but we can do what we want because it's Blender. So we have a silencer as well, and tilt the top. Now these two parts of the object will have different materials. And notice we add the extra edge loops in order to make the smooth shading show a reasonable edge and not blur the normals. We go back into shading, so we've got the node tree at the bottom, and we can see we develop a different material which we rename as chrome and apply that to the faces that constitute the exhaust pipe. And we'll also select the faces on the studs and assign the same material to those. We're going to make a door on the fridge as well, so we'll add 3 edge loops and then scale the inside edge loop in slightly to form an indentation. And because we made the rusty fridge material double-sided, so to speak, around the flat area, if the pointiness is negative or the pointiness is positive, then it will show rusty, so the cranny will be rusty. We've selected the edges around the outside of the fridge and applied a bevel to those just to improve the normals, but that will also reduce the pointiness, so we might have to tweak the material to adjust for the fact that the corners are not quite as sharp. Now we've added to the whole of the fridge, we've added an array modifier, and notice that the size of the fridge varies with each copy that the array produces. Now the type of array modifier we're going to use here is an object offset. So the best way to do that is to add an empty object, and we'll use the offset of the fridge from that empty object in order to produce the copies of the fridge. Note also that the position and rotation of each of the copies depends on the position and rotation of the empty relative to the origin of the fridge. There's another issue here, that as we move the empty and rotate it to create a circle of fridges, if we decide we want the fridge to be orientated differently, there's a problem, and we can fix that because when we rotate the fridge about its center point, the array changes. But we can amend that by going into edit mode and rotating all of the vertices around the origin of the fridge, and that will rotate each of the instances without moving their locations. So I decided that the best way to lay the fridges out was to put the exhaust pipes at the back. Once I'm happy with the array of fridges for the first layer, make a copy of the fridge and remove the modifier, and then duplicate that twice more so we have the fridge without a modifier added to it. For the second layer of the sculpture, we're going to arrange the fridges along a curve. So add a new curve object and make it into a spiral of the appropriate size, and put it in the appropriate position above the first tier of the sculpture. Then with the sculpture we add the array modifier again, and we have multiple in linear fridges, and then we add a modifier which goes after the array. So we've one modifier to create the array, a second modifier to position the object along curve. And notice it bends the vertices to correspond with the curve. And we can move the offset of the array backwards and forwards relative to the ends of the curve. And we can move the curve around to make it look nice. I've decided that fridges are going to be on their side for this layer, and may need to make other alterations, the spacing of the fridges and so on, and the rotation. We go into edit mode and rotate again to change the position of each instance along the array. The third tier of the sculpture uses instance system on a circle with very few vertices. So essentially we reduce the vertices to 5, so it's a pentagon. Note that the instancing happens automatically when one object is the parent of another object, and each instance of the child object can be made to occur at each vertex of the parent or at the centre of each face of the parent. For the top tier of the sculpture, we use a different process completely really from the others, which is to generate additional mesh vertices by using the spin tool. And again, this can be used to create one object, to stretch it out around like the wheel of a bicycle or something, or it can be used to create a circular array of multiple objects, which we've done here. So we have 8, 6, 5, 3 or something fridges on each tier.